Linda from Lányos Handmade, and today we're going to make the Pennyroyal pouch, but we're going to hack it into a handbag. It's pretty easy to do, and it's a lot of fun actually, because this has got a pretty big base on it, so it's a pretty good size bag to carry your things around in it. I'm sure I could fit a makeup and wallet and phone, all sorts of things in here pretty easily. These are Pennyroyal cut and sews, and they come looking like this. So they're pretty easy to cut out and you know, follow the instructions on the pattern, and you end up with all sorts of neat designs. The other thing she has is these labels. They all say handmade, and they've got cute little pictures on them. But I'm going to put the links for all these products in the description below so that you can find them, including this rose gold hardware. This is the Cabochon zipper pull, and you can customize it with any piece of leather or fabric that you might have to make it match your bag. And I'm really happy with those because it really helps for personalization. So all the links for these new products are going to be in the description below, and also links for groups that you can post yours in, because we really like to see what you make. So I think I've got all my supplies together. This is what the cut and sew comes like, and it's from Cork and Copper, and this is their extra large Pennyroyal pouch, and I'm going to make it into a bag. Cork and Copper also has these labels that are pretty fun too, so I'm going to put one of these on, and then I'll put my label on the inside on the lining. And my lining is cut super large, real sloppy, but it is interfaced, and it's just quilting cotton. What I'm going to do is properly cut these out and then line them up on my lining and cut the lining out. And then the other thing I need is a zipper, and the measurements are in the pattern, and I need a zipper pull. This is the one that the glass comes off, and you can put a piece of fabric or part of your print or something that you have decorative. I could even use this actually, because I've got some extra of the white. There's white space around this, right? So I've got some extra of the white, so I can actually use the white for the zipper and for the D-rings, because we'll need a D-ring tab and a zipper tab. And I'm going to put this one in there, and I'm going to make my own zipper tab and D-ring tabs out of the bonus that comes along the white. And I need webbing and 2 swivel hooks and a slider. And that should make a great looking combo there. So I'm just going to finish cutting out my materials, and then we can start sewing something. Okay, I think I've got everything cut out. I'm just going to stick my labels on. I marked where they go. It's always good to mark your centers on your pieces, because it really helps when you're putting in the zipper or you're sewing up the bottom. So I did that on everything. I know where I want to stick this, so I'm just going to do that right now. Put some okay, so I'm just going to sew that on there, and I'll sew the other one on too. This one I won't be able to see through. I cut out some D-ring tabs. These fit in here very well. Doesn't matter how long they are, really. I like to have them extra long so that there's a lot sitting inside the bag, so that it kind of holds it, I hope. So this is pretty much ready to go. I am just going to tack down the ends here so this doesn't fall off. And that will get that ready. This gets cut. That's my zipper tab I cut out. This gets cut. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller than the circle that I traced. It's been so long since I've used this. I certainly hope I still remember how. But basically, I'm going to put a bit of glue there and stick that down. And then a bit of glue to stick this on. And then we're going to have a nice little pattern for ours. That's why I need glue. So I will glue these two things down. I'm just using this 3-in-1. And then we'll have our pieces ready. And then we can go on with our zipper and the linings. So I'll just do that and I'll come back and show you what everything looks like. And don't forget to test your materials. You've got enough scraps there from the white space that you can test your sewing machine to see what the tension's like, you know, that sort of thing when sewing these materials. So make sure you test things out. Okay, let's see what I've done. Like I said, I tested my sewing machine. I've got a really long stitch. Well, it's not too long, but it's 3.5 on my machine. So it's a good long stitch. And I just sewed to make sure it was doing a nice stitch and that it would hold too. So always check. I did sew these. I just did a box around. And I also put some glue on the back because I don't want the knots to fall loose. I glued this together. I'm liking how that looks. It doesn't even make it look like it's the same. You know, it's kind of glows. Anyway, I'm really liking this. So let's put our zipper together with my zipper jig here. And you'll see I put my labels on, so these are all set. Let's get my zipper going here. One side of this is going to be nicer than the other because one side I kind of crushed with my crappy scissors. So, this is my zipper tab. I could put a spot of glue or some double-sided tape on one side just to hold it while I sew, but basically we're just going to fold it over and sew a box. You don't have to go this way if you don't want to, but for sure close those exposed edges there. So I'm going to get that done, and then after we can line our zipper up on our materials here. So now for the zipper. There are instructions in the pattern for zipper placement, so make sure you follow those. I think I want this to be the back and this to be the front, and I think I want my pull on this side. So I'm going to get my clips out and line all this up so I can sew it. So I'm just going to sew as she instructs in the pattern. And then that'll put my pull on the side I like. We do have to bend this up. So I'm going to clip it here. Let's see what it looks like. Yeah, so that's what it's going to look like when we finish. So I'm just going to sew that right now, and then we can put it on the other side. There, this side's sewed on. Remember to move your zipper pull out of the way when you're sewing. And you see I sewed my bend in. If you're worried about sewing the bend at the same time as you're sewing your seam allowance, do your bend first, but make sure you follow the instructions in the pattern to find out how long your zipper is supposed to be and where the bend is supposed to be. So now we can do the other side. We line it up the same way. This vinyl's a little bit slippery, so I have to be careful I don't mess it up here. After I clip it all in, I'm going to check to see if the sides meet together nicely, because, you know, you're supposed to, you don't want it like an inch off. It's supposed to meet nicely. So I'm going to clip all this in and sew it and check to see if it matches nice. So that's going to be good when I sew it. Okay, I've got my both sides sewn in. These ends are going to tuck inside. That's going to be the back. This is going to be the front. Now we have to get our linings attached. Now, where's my back again? This is my back, so I want this one on the back here. Yep. And I want this one on the front here. Yep. So I'm just going to turn this around and match together. And let's sew the top right where the zipper is, just like she says in the pattern. And we'll go from one edge to the other edge. Okay, I've sewn from one edge to the other edge. And if we open it up, let's check and see if any stitches are showing. Maybe we could do our seam allowance a little bit bigger if we have a problem there that there's, nope, it's not too much exposed. And I cut all the edges and there's no stitches showing on the outside. So let's do the other side. Oop, hope I'm not shaking the table here. So we want the lining right sides together. Let's line this up and we can sew this together now. And I'm loving the color. Okay, we'll sew this. Okay, I've got my linings and my outer layers all sewn in. Now I can top stitch to hold everything down along here, because this is a bit thick. Now if I had fabric, this was being made of nothing but fabric, I could just pin it, but I don't want to stick holes in my vinyl. Sometimes I go this way and I clip it down. I feel it, make it sure it's flat. And sometimes if I'm having a lot of trouble in getting this method to work, I use double-sided tape on the inside to make sure it's all lined up, which I might do too, because this is pretty heavy. So I'll flatten it all down and put some double-sided tape through here to help hold this so that I can top stitch it along the edge. So I'm just going to continue on, strip of double-sided tape and clipping both of these edges down so that I can sew along here, and it'll get it to stay. Okay, just to show you what I did clip around, and I did put some double-sided tape inside here to hold it down too. So I'm just going to top stitch along where she says in the pattern so that it gets all sorted out, and then I'll come back and show you, because I guess we're doing the sides, and I really have to remember to sew these on, because if not, it's not a bag anymore. It's back to being a pouch again, and that's not how you sew them on. So don't pay attention. We're going to sew them on this way so that they end up coming out this way. But that's the next step. Let's get our top stitching done first. Okay, I've got my top stitching done. It's looking good. It really helped to stick the double-sided tape on this side because it really stuck it down. Now, this is the front of the back. That's the back, that's the front. We've got it all. Let's stick these on. And I don't need those clips there anymore. And when we stick this on, we have to remember that if you've got, you know, like a 1-inch seam allowance, you've got to position this so that you don't hit your hardware. So try it out a little bit and see what it looks like. Doesn't matter if it sticks out a bit. You can do them straight, or you can do them curved up a bit. I'm just going to measure this distance here and make sure I've got enough room for seam allowance, and then I'll put it on here. Let's fold this there. That's close, but that's okay. You don't want to go too close to the zipper neither, because then it's going to hit when you try and sew. That's why I like to have extra long tabs so that I can try and decide where I'm going to put them. Once I get this one figured out, I'm going to measure and make the other one exactly the same on this side. And I'll clip this on here, and then I'll just baste it on a little bit, really close to the edge, so that it the stitching to put this D-ring tab on doesn't show after we get the sides sewn. So make sure your stitching stays in the seam allowance. So I'm just going to measure this out here and sew it on. Okay, we've got our tabs sewed on. Now we sew the outside layers together, and we sew along the bottom here. And the sides. Let's try and match this up. And if you don't want to sew over top of this lump because it's really thick, then just sew up to the lump. So only sew to here and stop. That's usually what I do because I have a domestic machine and I don't want to push it, and you end up with the same results anyway. So I'm just going to sew to there and stop. Start from the bottom and go up. Then after with this side, when we sew the bottom, we just sew a little bit just to tack it. Because we have to leave it open for turning. This vinyl is a little bit thicker, so I'm going to leave a really big opening at the bottom. And then of course we sew up the sides again too. And I'm not going to sew across the seam. I'm just going to sew up to the seam. I ran out of clips here. Okay, from here to here, here to here, across the bottom, there, just a little bit here, and up there. And make sure you use the recommended seam allowances too. I might do this one a bit bigger, this seam allowance, than the outside, but you have to leave the tops the same amount as recommended on both sides. Oh, I guess I can cut those off too, huh? Now before moving on, you see I've sewed the sides here and the bottom, but I left this really open so I could stick my hand inside. Before moving on, check to see if these lie nicely, because you know, now's your chance. If you got anything caught, you can always fix it now, but you can't fix it later. You'd have to do some hand stitching to fix it later. So just check inside and see if these are lying nicely, and also check your seams, because I noticed I skipped a stitch here. My machine skipped a stitch on this side. Yeah, look how sloppy that is. So I'm just going to sew this a little bit again so that my lining doesn't fall apart. And after that, we can line up our corners here, and we can box our corners. And when you box your corners, make sure one side goes one way and the other side of the seam allowances go the other way. Like that. That feels really good. So go around and box all your corners, and don't forget to check inside now that it's still open and exposed. See what you can see. And when you're doing these, make sure that they are both facing in the same direction, because see, I've got this one doubled up, because then it'll lie even flatter. So I'm going to put this way. And then this bottom seam will be lying in the same direction too. And these are not lying on top of each other. And we'll do the same with the vinyl on the other side too. Make sure our seams are facing opposite way, especially with this heavy stuff, right? Make sure that they're feathered like that way. Okay, let's turn it. Hope you left your zipper open. Now when it comes to turning, oh, it's so much fun, isn't it? There. I like to poke all my corners out just to check and see how they look, and try and line this up proper so that I can sew it. I'm going to sew it by hand. I think. We shall see. Basically, that's how we sew it together. And then after, we can stick it inside and make our strap. So I'm going to get the bottom sewn up. All right. This is all sorted out. Now, well, let's work on our strap. Quite often people singe the ends because it frays a lot. But I don't singe the ends. Instead, I like to stick a patch on it and hide it. So I'm going to use the patch. The other thing is sometimes I stick an extra layer in here because it's too slippy. So let's just take a look and see whether it's slipping or not, or whether it stays pretty well. I think that might be okay, because, you know, every material is different. Let's just see. Yeah, I think I might stick a little bit on there, just right inside. So if I feed this through with the end piece, that way it'll add some thickness to it. Now I'm just going to move it down because I want some overhang here. Maybe not that much, just a little bit. And then I'll sew a patch on here. So it's unfortunate I don't have a color that's the right color, but that's how I'm going to set this up. I'm going to narrow these pieces down a bit. There, so I'll sew this on and it'll secure it and keep a little bit of width there too, so that when I feed it through, it doesn't end up being very slippery. Good. So let's get that patch sewed on, and then we can move on to the rest. I wish I had a piece of blue, but I don't, so I glued my sewing so it would stay. And now I'm going to put it through on the swivel hook. I think this vinyl might be a bit too long. So we slide it through the swivel hook, and then we slide it back through the slider. And we check and see we've got everything on the same. Yep, that looks good. And then the other side goes through the swivel hook. And again, you know, you could burn this, stick rivets in it, whatever you like. I'm going to just sew a patch on again. Glue stuck to me. And that will be the end of my strap. Then we can put it on our bag and we're done. So how'd that go? We'd love to see what your Pennyroyal looks like. Did you make it into a handbag, or just put a wrist strap on, or did you leave it as a pouch? We'd love to see. So all the links are below for the groups, and also for all the products I use. And I just want to say thank you for watching, and thank you for making such a great pattern, Cork and Copper Designs.